Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is a show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know what you get to do. You get to click like, you get to click subscribe, you get to give me a 5-star review. Because today, my incredible guest, I have Evan Shirreffs. He's the managing director at PPL Strategy, a Web3 advisory firm. Evan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Just I'm in Florida, so enjoying a little bit of sunshine. How are you?
Sunshine. It's like 110 degree sunshine, though, right? It's a little different than normal sunshine.
Oh, it's hot as hell, but there's some it's humid too, but I'd rather have that than the cold, that's for
You and
sure.
me both, man. I hate the winter. I would choose not being able to use summer than not being able to use winter every
True.
day of the week, man. But no, very excited. Get to learn a little bit about what you're doing in the Web3 space, the NFT space, the crypto space. What the hell the difference and the similarities to all of those, right? Sometimes they're used interchangeably, and I don't think people are doing it correctly. So I'm going to let you, the expert, give me an understanding of all that, what you're doing in the sports space and why you love it so much. But really the first question, I guess I kind of teased it a little bit for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, Evan, why do you love sports so much?
I love sports because I learned most of my life lessons from it. I mean, my grandfather played at Navy. My father played football at University of Delaware, then Virginia. My older brother played football at NC State, then UConn. And then I played football at the University of Miami, then UNC Charlotte. But just growing up, you have that community feel of the locker room or whatever it is. I think that's the biggest thing you gravitate towards. I've always been a team sport guy, really. So you meet your friends that way. You train that way, you're in better shape. I mean, there's not much bad that comes out of sports, so it's hard not to love them, to be honest.
All about the you, man. All about the you. What's that recruiting process like? That's got to be nuts, right?
Oh, yeah. My recruiting process was a little different, I think, than most targets that either end up there at another Power Five. Normally the process they're offering you freshman, sophomore, junior year. Most people are committing their junior year. Well, I was behind my older brother, and he took us to a state championship my sophomore year of high school, his senior, and I got injured my first year starting that junior season, didn't have much film to send out, so I was kind of a late bloomer, so to speak, started getting smaller offers, started looking at a lot of the Ivy Leagues, Patriot League teams, got some smaller offers from 1AA teams and then some smaller D1s, and then actually the day after signing day, I had visited Miami, they hadn't offered me, but the day after I got a call that they had a spot for me, they had a scholarship, and they didn't even ask if I wanted to go. He was the coach at the time, James Coley, was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna fax over the paperwork and get it back," and I was like, "Done."
That's some balls, man. That is awesome. What a cool, that's such a cool story. And that's just such a interesting twist in this whole story, right? Like, as you said, unfortunately got injured playing behind your brother. So there was a couple years there. You had the opportunity. I mean, what was your time at Miami like? And, how much fun did you have without spilling, all the secrets?
Miami was awesome. Miami was when I showed up, I was a kid I grew up in Athens, Georgia, but went to high school a little bit outside of in a smaller public high school, and you know going from that to a city like Miami, very international, very up tempo type city was crazy at first. To be honest, I didn't love it the first 6 months, even though it was in Florida and beautiful. It took a while to kind of get used to it, but no, I was there 3 years, finished in 2018, was part of that 2017 team that started 10-0 at one point. We're number 2 in the nation, which was awesome. So I was the backup quarterback that year behind Malik Rozier. And, a lot of the guys I met, it was awesome. In the locker room, on the field, obviously, outside, we had our fun too. Luckily, we're all here and
That's all that
still
matters. Yep.
pumping, but
Leave
that's
it
all
there.
that
You're good.
matters.
Again, don't. I mean, I don't know if you have. I always suggest to anybody that just likes television, watch Blue Mountain State. Right, the best position to be is backup quarterback, right? So I'm sure you had just as much fun as Alex Moran did, and we'll just leave it at that. So I guess I'm curious. You then travel from Miami to UNC Wilmington, UNC Charlotte. I apologize, I can't remember.
UNC Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay, cool. So what I guess brought you there? Was it the master's degree? Was it the opportunity to play? Why exactly did you then take that trip?
Yeah, so I came in under the staff with Al Golden, and shortly after that, Mark Richt took over. I grew up in Athens.
I was going to say Georgia fan, probably.
Wasn't
cool.
heavily. Yeah, I grew up going to Georgia games, but wasn't heavily recruited there. Wasn't offered there. So I was just like, I'm gonna set myself up in the future that if I need to go elsewhere, whether it's stay here and get a master's degree or go elsewhere, I'll be set. So I scheduled it out so I could graduate early, and then when that time came, I was ready to part ways. I love Miami. I mean, I'm still involved, but in terms of playing career wise, I saw a better move, going to another school. So initially they blocked my transfer from a lot of schools to go to, other ACC schools. Anyone on the schedule within 2 years actually got to go fight that and got some of the schools back. But to be completely honest, I visited UNC Charlotte and had no idea if I would go there. I grew up, 3 hours away and didn't even really know what was there. Had driven through Charlotte maybe one time to go see my brother at NC State. But as soon as I saw the campus, as soon as I talked to them, it was like a night program too, which was a lot not easier, but more flexibility in, what I could do during the day, whether it was training with football, whether it was, going to networking events and that type of stuff, because I knew at some point the game would end. But I just saw the city of Charlotte, and having been a finance major undergrad, why would I not want to be in a massive emerging investment banking city, right? Which it's funny now when I say it, I moved to Charlotte to do investment banking, but now I tell people that, I ended up doing investment banking just with pictures involved with NFTs. So
I love it. Look at you, man. You're good at the story selling of all of it. Look at you. You're finance guy through and through. I think that's awesome. And I think it's, I want to put a pin in this because obviously you're not too far away from all of these athletes now getting to take advantage of NIL, right? So I want to make sure that we remember that point for what you're doing now, because I'm sure that you have a lot of awesome talking points that we can get to on how athletes can take advantage of NIL, because unfortunately you were not able to. I'm sure even the backup quarterback at Miami probably could have pulled a couple bucks, well-deserved bucks too, right?
For sure.
So I mean, at a powerhouse school like that, I think there's a lot of opportunity. So let's kind of put a pin in that one. You get into investment banking. Did you accept leaving sports after football was done? Was your goal to work in sports through investment banking? How did you kind of travel that aspect of your life?
It was tough. I think I think it's a good segue, and I may talk a lot on this segment right here, because I'm very passionate about what the transition has been like, and still work with UNC Charlotte's Alumni Association up there, building out a network for that better transition, or a better network in place than was there when I was there to finish school and end up with a job, or at least start the networking that could end up in a job. But yeah, the transition was tough. I went to Charlotte to the goal was to be the guy, a big fish in a smaller pond. It was a new program at the time. I think it was coming up on like the 6th or 7th season. I believe it was 7th in fall of 2018. But yeah, I moved there to work to do the MBA program at UNC Charlotte, and then figured that would curtail into, an investment banking career. I ended up getting injured my last season, so my 5th season, broke my collarbone the 3rd game of the season, and that was looking back on it, it was probably one of the better things that's ever happened to me in my life in terms of teaching me lessons and having to let go of football a little earlier than I expected. So I finished in December of 2019 with the MBA program. I was so burnt out from college sports. And just like that constant grind, because it really is a job, which is why I'm happy people can get paid for it now through these NIL deals. But went to Australia for a couple months to decompress, had saved up a little bit, a little bit of help from the parentals, but was backpacking around, staying in hostels with, 7, 8, 9, 10 different people in the room every night in bunk beds, meeting people from all over the world. And it was just nice to get away, because during that whole entire grind, right, I didn't really have the chance to even look into what do I want to do in the future. I didn't have an opportunity to do an internship. I didn't have, this summer, which I had to be there working out and taking classes, to do what a lot of these other people were able to do that weren't playing sports and build up their resume. So it was more, instead of, hey, taking a job immediately in investment banking or what I thought I wanted to do, kind of step back and, hey, what do I even like, right? And I linked up when I moved to Charlotte with Mike Simmons. He's the CEO of WIMS Inc., WIMS Consulting, and he was a Miami grad, so I knew the power of networking, that, oh, this guy, wants me to work for him a little bit, worked a little bit the summer leading up to my final season, and then after, he was like, would love to have you on. And that was doing, creating websites, doing SEO, implementing back-end CRM systems for smaller to middle-sized businesses. And through that, I kind of fell in love with the startup side. And I talked with Mike a month or two ago too, and he's like, man, I should have never had you write that article. He had me write an article on blockchain, which kind of sparked a lot of interest in January of last January, so January 2021. And then from there, I kind of just went down the rabbit hole. And it's a good curtail here into why I kind of went this way. I joined an NFT verification company, so using NFTs as tickets to get into games or to redeem for merchandise, basically using your NFT as a membership card to a type of club, which started out as like digital clubs. But it was just a weird culmination of so many things happening, COVID hitting, everything, right? So we're all locked inside. We're not conversing with people. We're not meeting at our local gym or church or whatever it may be where there's that community aspect, right? So I was like, man, I'm locked inside. I'm working with one other guy, and I loved it. But, I've always been a networker, talking to people, and love to see, multiple faces a day. And going into that football room, I always saw the same quarterbacks. I saw my teammates. How you doing today? Missed that locker room feel. And that kind of came back when I dove into NFTs. Everyone owns an asset that there's only a limited number of. So, I mean, if you think of it like a team, with a team, you're working toward the goal of winning that championship, right? With an NFT community, it may not be just to make money. It may be, hey, how can we make this community better? And a lot of the time, you're conversing with people in that community, and that you can verify who they are. So everyone's going to be a lot nicer. Normally on the internet, if you're just attacking each other left and right, which happens all the time, there's not really a way to point out who someone is. But if you have these assets that can, somewhat show, hey, I have a monetary stake just like you have a monetary stake in this. So it creates kind of that feel that, hey, we both have something in common working towards. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into the NFT industry, and why I like it, because it resembles that locker room feel so much.
And I'm curious if that, the gentleman who asked you to write that article, if it was kind of just like, you need something to do. Hey, why don't you write this article on blockchain? Just like, we need some content up, right? Do some SEO. SEO, right? Yeah, just do some SEO and get that out. And how funny it is, like how, potentially, maybe it wasn't. I'm just it's funny in my head thinking of it as kind of a throwaway comment that led you down this entire different path, where simply could have just asked you to write on, I don't know, just literally anything else, right? Like, it's just, it's funny how forks in the road.
We'd had a lot of conversations on blockchain, and he had Ethereum, Bitcoin, and was even taking payments in Bitcoin, I think,
It's a little ahead of the game.
Gigs he was doing. Yeah, he was ahead of the game. And, but, I think the thing that switched for me was diving in it that way. I was like, this is more than just payments. This is going to disrupt every single industry there is. And then it wasn't until I linked up with a buddy from high school who was working in the space and had been in the space, and I, was able to talk to him and learn a lot about, the applications of all this stuff and actual existing business models. And what it could do for user acquisition or community building or user retention, that type of stuff, right? Loyalty reward systems. It's very integratable into every existing industry. It's not just, hey, here's a cryptocurrency that I can buy and sell, right? It's its own world, it's its own economy, or multiple economies on different chains. But that's what I was able to look through last spring, and then ultimately, last May, just left that job, and I was like, screw it, I'll go work for a startup and just take a huge risk. I'm a young kid, no girlfriend, no house payments, you know what I mean? I just had to pay rent, and as long as I could do that, why not go for it?
That's awesome. Yeah, to pay rent, get like a job at Chili's on the weekends. I'm sure you could cover your rent at that point. Like after that, like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. All right, so let's stop your story there for a second, and let's go over to NFTs, crypto, blockchain, Web3. Like, a lot of this stuff is interchangeable on purpose, by accident. A lot of this stuff is thought of as one thing, right? A picture on the internet. Why am I paying $1,000 for a JPEG of this ape? Like, I don't get it. You get it. I don't get it, right? So I'm just curious, like, give me like a crash course, give me a slight understanding, give me a high level of what exactly these things are and why you do believe that there is this disruptor that's happening and has been happening for a couple years now, that you really do see that you're going to put your career behind it. You're going to put your net worth behind this subsect of the internet.
Yeah, I think it's just, more and more eyes have gone into it. I think the biggest thing that kind of, to understand that world, you kind of have to understand finance in itself. And I use like kind of a primitive example here, but if I were to send a check to you, it goes through my bank, through a clearinghouse, to your bank, down to your bank account. It could take, 5 to 7 days. Most even bank transfers, unless they're an internal transfer, take multiple days. And furthermore, if there are 10 transactions, they're going through the same bank, they're going through clearinghouse, they're going to your bank, and then into your account. Well, what if everything that we don't see, here's me, here's you, everything that we don't see above that in verifying, we have no visibility on. We don't know if there's any fraud on that side. So in terms of decentralization, say I want to send you a payment, instead of going through a clearinghouse to validate the check, right? Now it is verified by a third party that isn't the state, that isn't a bank. It's just, someone's node, they call it, but basically where you verify each of these transactions. So if I send you 10 transactions, likelihood is they're going through a different node each time. Whereas with the banks, they're usually going through the same process. Well, what if there's fraud involved? At least if I send you transactions and one node was compromised, you can point out that node at any point. You can say, hey, this amount of funds either did send or didn't send, or this was a fraudulent, transaction. You can point at any point. It's just a continual ledger of of data of everything taking place, transactions, buy, sell, whatever it is. So you can publicly see all of that. Obviously, right now, it's not super organized. You have people that are like on the internet diving in and out that are like, oh, this big whale, which is a term used to describe people with like a lot of one cryptocurrency or a lot of NFTs, this whale did this and it was malicious or whatever. I think the biggest thing is like you can point that stuff out now. So it's really the transparency of it I appreciated, as well as I guess diving deeper into, there are different terms, like you said, a cryptocurrency, it kind of carries a negative connotation, but Web3 can be used interchangeably with blockchain. Web3 just means there was Web 1 where it was read only. There was Web 2 where we can interact. It's more social. Think social medias. I can send you posts, you can send me posts, I can send you messages, you can send them back. And then Web 3 is really ownership of that. So I don't know if many people know this, but you don't own any of your posts on Twitter, any of your posts on Instagram, any of that stuff, right? They own the rights to it when you put it on their platform. Well, with Web 3, I now still own all of my, especially for creators, content, that type of stuff. I mean, it's a very broad question.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
would say, yeah. I would say like the biggest thing, um, is don't be scared of these new terms, or it's just different ways of, it's just a new technology.
Hmm.
Like it's a new type of software and a new type of way of doing things. It's not, switching completely away from an old system, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, and I've never heard it put in the ownership. I've never
Yeah.
heard it in that aspect because yeah, like people don't realize that if you put something on Twitter, that's Twitter. So like, yeah, you can get paid the ad revenue on it, but Twitter's gonna make their money too. Like that's how it works. Like YouTube is always making money. Like you don't get all the ad revenue. Google gets all the ad revenue. You get some
Yeah.
of the ad revenue, and it's really important to understand. So I'm excited for it, and I think it is important. And for people that kind of poo-poo it right off the bat, like that's kind of on them, right? Like, do I think everything about it is perfect? As do you? Probably not.
No. No.
And I think things
No.
can get better, and they always do, right? Like people are afraid of when these new things happen. Now, one interesting thing, especially with crypto, and I think it's, I guess, a good time to have you on. I mean, obviously, it tumbled, let's say, to use a light
Yeah.
term, recently, right? Only like 6-7 months ago. Like the easy one is to say, Bitcoin was at somewhere around 60,000. Now it's somewhere around 20,000. I don't know. It moves up and down every day. What do you think that is going to give it a very negative connotation? Whereas if the stock market did that, people would be like, this is the best time to buy the stock market ever. Yeah, you'll have the people on the, Main Street freaking out. It's like, I just lost half my money. It's like, well, yeah. Well, like, why did you have half all your money in one asset? That's kind of
Exactly.
on you. Like, how do you combat the people that would say this is like the worst thing that's ever happened? To be
Yeah.
like, dude, it's only been like 3 years. Like, what? We got so much
Yeah.
more time.
Well, I would say, with a company, the power of a company is in, its leadership and its vision and where they're going, right? And you might have one product, you might have three, you might have five. Well, those companies and products can fail if you're not always innovating, right?
Hmm.
The one thing I say to a lot of people is, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, all of these, layer one blockchains, so to speak, but just their own blockchains, they're not their own companies that you're investing in. They're their own economies. So what I'm looking at is, not the day-to-day fluctuation. I'm not a trader. If I day traded, I'd lose all my money most likely. I'm usually buying to hold for a longer term. And why I believe in it more so than even some of these emerging, tech stocks where it's like, oh yeah, I don't know yet. I mean, we saw, what Motorola die, stuff like that, where 20 years ago, or a lot of these Web 2 companies, Internet Explorer, even
Hmm.
recently, went under. Well, these are blockchain protocols that companies are built on top of. So it's not just, hey, here's Ethereum and I can buy into Ethereum. You're not buying into a company, you're buying into a whole ecosystem, an economy itself. And what really flipped my switch was when I started buying and transacting and buying NFTs using a couple different chains. So like from one aspect, I see the users going to it. I see more people buying, selling, transacting, building protocols on top of that. From the other side is the building protocol side, where I see developers that are getting snagged from Google, Amazon, whatever, and they're moving into the space. To think that that will reap a reward in the short term, yeah, you can hype it up and there might be a pump here, or like, Elon Musk did with Dogecoin, like, make it a meme type thing. There are those meme coins, and excuse my language, but people call them shit coins. Or there's the actual protocols that are building on top of an Ethereum or Solana or a Bitcoin that actually, that's just a base layer that companies can build on top of. And the amount of companies that are building on top of it, I look at it and say, and more people coming into the space, I look at it and say, this is just going to expand. The more people you have in an economy, the more the economy expands, because more people are buying, selling, transacting, using that. It's a different investment than investing in a company, is what I think people need to understand. I'm not investing in Ethereum as a company. I'm investing in Ethereum as an economy.
I've never heard it put like that, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. So I appreciate the explanation. It's more like you're investing in I guess, can we say like an index at that point? It's more like investing in the S&P rather than investing in
Yeah,
Apple.
yeah. Okay, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. I would the only difference is the S&P is like obviously top down like grabbing those companies. These are built on top of it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
which is
it's the
even
same thing. Why I buy Ethereum is not, and not do sometimes buy specific projects on blockchains, but I'd rather just hold that base layer that's used to buy, sell, transact on there. And as more users come, there's not an infinite supply of the currency. So as more users come, the value of that currency is going to go up,
very cool.
which is my thinking. And I see people coming to the space. I see more people, realizing the tech that's there. So long term, I'm not scared at these. These short-term price fluctuations have been extremely painful, but I'm in it for the long term.
You don't lose
so
money
I'm
until
not,
you sell. You know that. You don't lose
Exactly.
money until you sell. That's the only time you lose money. So I think that's always important for people. I was in finance for a little bit as well. I absolutely hated it. So got the heck out of there. But
Yeah.
I learned a lot, which is important, and I've been able to utilize it and make a couple bucks along the way. Why are NFTs not bullshit?
I got you. Well, I'll start when I thought that they were bullshit.
Perfect.
Right?
Oh,
So
this is the best person to ask the question to. Love it.
Last January, before I was asked to write that article that my former boss told me to write, or like asked me if I wanted to write. Right. I looked at NFTs and saw a Beeple sale. So Beeple is one of the larger artists in NFTs. He had a collection of NFTs sell for $69 million.
Nice.
So I was like, that is complete BS. Like, that really is. There's only the speculative art value side. That's the same as, looking at a regular art piece and, hey, I don't know if this is $5 or $5 million. Who assigns the value there? I don't know. What made me excited was when I learned what you can do with NFTs. So it's not the art, it's not the video attached to it, the picture, whatever that matters to me. It's the utility that comes with it. And a lot of people will say, oh, this utility, this NFT, whatever, it's thrown around, all the time now. But initially it was, I have an NFT, which is a non-fungible token, which is different than a fungible token. I guess that's a good way to start it. A fungible token would be a Bitcoin. One Bitcoin isn't distinguishable from another Bitcoin, right? One Ether is not distinguishable from another, right? Whereas each individual NFT at any point, you can say, yeah, this is my one NFT, where you check a smart contract, and on that smart contract are NFTs that have been minted on it, and they each have their own token ID. So, for example, I can say that I own token number 262 of this NFT collection, which then makes me a member or verifiable member of that community. I mean, digitally, normally you can say, oh yeah, I'm doing this or that, whatever. But NFTs now you can use to sign into a website. You can't even get into websites unless you prove ownership of an NFT. You then now can't get into games with some things coming, and a new really, really cool app, Token Proof, that came out where you can use NFTs linked, or if the app is linked to your wallet, so it proves ownership of your NFT to then get into those community events, right? So a lot of this happened digitally, but then we started having in real life events and that type of stuff, which shows more and more use cases. If I can prove I own this NFT, I can redeem for merchandise. If I prove I own this NFT, I can, get into a game or go to a concert. And then even further than that, you can see, say you're a concert venue and you have, 5 different shows. You can see your VIP member that owned your NFT, which ones actually checked into the shows and which ones didn't, which ones are contributing to building your brand and which ones are, did buy in, but they're seeing it more as an investment and just waiting for it to go up. So it's more, the coolest thing about NFTs for me are their own little, they're not hardware computers. I say they're their own little software computers. You can do so much with them. You can use them as a key digitally to get into private chats, to get into a private page. You can use them to verify to get into a game as a ticket. It's just the use cases of them with that verification aspect, which I'm lucky when I entered this space because I learned the verification aspect first, where most learn the community aspect, then, what you can do with NFTs. I learned everything you can do with NFTs and have been kind of working backwards to how do we get that technology to these communities to show, hey, you paid your, essentially, I'll say this for NFTs sometimes, this is your community deposit.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially like, for a lot of them, a crowd fund up front and then saying, hey, now what do we want to do with this money we raised? But at any point, it's liquid, so you can sell out of it. You can say, oh, I don't want to be part of that community if they don't provide enough benefits, So it was really that seeing what you can do with an NFT and not just sitting there. Anyone can take, one of my NFTs, right-click, save it, and post it and do whatever, but they can't redeem for the same rewards I redeem for. That's the same thing as, taking a picture of your Soho House card, and, oh, I'm a member of Soho House. No, you're not. You can't use that, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I think it's an awesome way to explain it, because I think that's what people don't understand. Most people, I think, the introduction of NFTs has mostly been through, Bored Ape. I think most people understand, or at least have heard of, Bored Ape Yacht Club or whatever the heck it's called, and Top Shot, right? NBA Top Shot. And I think Top Shot was the one that, for me, it sounds like total bullshit, because it's just gifts of players, and I don't think there's anything attached to those gifts. It's just gifts, and then people would buy them, and then for whatever reason, they would just sell them, and then everyone realized, wait, like, if I just sell mine for $1 less, of this Aaron Gordon dunk,
I can sell it.
I can sell it, and then another guy tries to go $1 cheaper and $1 cheaper, and then it's a race to the bottom, and it doesn't really make any sense. And like, I think that was the introduction for a lot of people, because that blew up so quickly on the internet, and so many people just bought and sold without any like care or wonder. And hey, to those people, make your money, man. Like, who the hell am I? But I think that was the introduction, and that left a really bad taste in most people's mouths, because you can hear it on popular podcasts. Like, why did I just buy this GIF for $250? Like, I don't get it. And I think that was it was cool for NFTs because people heard that term, but I also think it was a huge negative because everyone's like, this makes no sense and is stupid.
Yeah, I think that, Top Shot was great getting eyes on the space, getting
100%.
more mass adoption. And with FlowChain, you're able to buy with credit card, which, more technically, it's very hard. It's harder for a new user to be onboarded and buy an NFT on Ethereum or another blockchain, whereas Flow at the time was one of the first where you could just buy directly with US dollar, which now other blockchains are integrating, but it was more the user interface or the user experience using Top Shot was similar to, more Web 2-ish and the applications we currently use. But yeah, I never bought into Top Shot. I never saw the value in just holding a moment. And also, they kind of saturated the market. The biggest thing with NFTs a lot of the time is just the scarcity of it. Only a certain amount of people hold this. They kept doing more and more and more drops. But then you lean into, okay, what's the real first, super successful community NFT? I would say Bored Ape Yacht Club, because their goal was to provide those experiences to, hey, you get to go to Ape Fest and see Snoop Dogg and Eminem. You get to, you're the only one that gets to buy this merchandise. So that exclusivity really showed, oh, wow, if you can create such demand that so many people want to be part of this, the price is going to skyrocket because only a certain number of people want to be a part of it. Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, there's 10,000 apes. There's a possibility of only 20,000 mutant apes, which is the second tier of membership. So think 30,000 people. Well, if 100 million people want to buy into that, those willing to offer the highest 30,000 bids are going to get in. It didn't always start as that. It was, hey, you have an ape as your profile picture. Oh, I have one too. Let's follow each other. It started as like a ape follow ape, and like, oh, we're supporting each other. We're engaging on each other's posts. It was like kind of funny. But then, pushing later into it, it became a very exclusive club that provided perks. But I would even say the value of it is past those perks because of the networking opportunities, the people you can get in touch with, the people that are trying to buy into the club. If Des Bryant was one that had one like last summer and would interact a lot with the community. Now you have a lot of these celebrities or figures buying in, and you're never going to see them at any of these events, and they're never going to be engaging with other apes, whatever it is. But those first, few celebrities as well as like a lot of the Twitter personalities in crypto kind of latched onto it and kind of made it blow up. But yeah, like I said, that one is one that's exclusive that a lot of people want to be a part of. Top Shot, I think a lot of people want to be a part of, but it's not like they don't have a limited number, so 1 million people could own one. You know, it's not as exclusive, it's community driven as a Bored Ape Yacht Club. If
Yeah,
that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
Top
It doesn't
Shot's-
provide utility.
Yeah, 100%. Top Shot's essentially just like a baseball card or a basketball card.
Yeah.
Just now it's in gift form, and that's cool. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. Like,
Well, I'll add to there. I mean, the DPC NFT.
yeah, shout out Daniel.
It's a shout out Daniel. It's an interesting concept because I've seen a lot of sports drops just go, you know, not smooth. Where hey, a pro athlete or college athlete, hey, let me just monetize my likeness and sell this NFT. That's what it started out as. Well, that's not as great as linking it to different experiences you can do. So, you know, whether it's giving away, say you scored 2 rushing touchdowns, you're a running back, and, you know, you want to commemorate that with a one-on-one experience, or you want to give away the cleats you wore in that game, you know, that type of stuff.
Yeah, what they're doing is way cooler because they attach the utility to it. I remember him explaining it to me. I can't remember. He's a couple episodes back, so anyone listening, make sure to go check out Daniel Pardo. He's doing some really interesting stuff, specifically with athletes in the NIL space, so we're going to get to that in a little bit. Remember, we put that one in the back of our head, but the way he was explaining is like you get a training session if you own this, or you get, you know, that one-on-one experience, or, you know, you have the opportunity to meet, you know, someone else from the team, right? There's so many different things. With Top Shot, again, it just kind of seemed like it was just a baseball card or a basketball card and really nothing attached to it. What they're doing, the opportunity to attach that utility to the smart contract of that NFT, that's what's really going to drive them to being different and being successful, hopefully.
Yeah, it drives fan engagement. And, you know, from one side, hey, you're getting these fans coming, but you're also seeing, you know, everyone can say, oh, we support you, we can do this or that. A big example I use is like clothing, right? How many people do you know that, hey, I want to start a clothing line? You know what I mean? Or whatever. They print out 25 T-shirts and they give them to close friends. Well, if I'm rocking your T-shirt, I don't benefit at all. Like, what's incentivizing me to wear this? Well, now instead of, hey, here's your free things, go be my brand ambassador, you're now having your brand ambassadors pay you. They're saying, hey, I'll give you this, you know, community deposit in you or this business you're building. And along the way, you might give me free shirts. And then why am I going to rep that shirt? Because I want the value of that asset to go up. So they're paying you to become your brand ambassadors, to wear your stuff in the hopes that, you know, obviously that digital asset value will go up, but they have an incentive to grow and be successful with you. And I think that ties over to sports a lot in that, you know, if you're a player, I've been grilled left, right, sideways, backwards on Twitter for performances in football, you know, by the same people that in person were loving me or whatever, right? It's a way to see who actually is willing to put their money where their mouth is and have a monetary stake in your success, or support you, you know, that way, and say, hey, you know, through the ups and downs too, that's how you find your closest fans, because, you know, there are a lot of fair-weathered fans.
There are always, especially on Twitter, that's the worst place on planet Earth.
Oh, yeah.
I say that a lot. So talk to me a little bit about getting back into the sports side of things and what you did with, I don't know, is it Nifty? Is it NFTY Labs? I don't know how exactly you say it. And then obviously with what you're doing now.
Yeah, so with them, it initially started because not a lot of this was being more and more mass adopted when I got into the space. Obviously, NBA Top Shot had come out, but really not that many people still knew about it or cared that much. It wasn't really until Bored Ape Yacht Club hit the space that people were like, oh, wow, like this is real, this is coming. And I think going to some of those in real life events showed it. But, you know, even last summer, I was calling out people I knew. I played, you know, during the playing career, it wasn't fortunate in that I had 4 different coaching staffs, 4 different weight training staffs, had to continuously feel like I'm proving myself, had to continuously, you know, meet a new coach every year essentially, which is tough when you're trying to learn 4 different playbooks. But looking back on it, it's not bad, because now those 4 coaching staffs and all the people I played with and playing at 2 different schools, they're dispersed all around. So I, you know, was lucky to create a lot of friendships and, a network there that I can call up guys and check in how they're doing, whatever. But through having an ape, I got a lot of DMs from guys that were interested in NFTs when Bored Apes blew up. I had it as my profile picture back, in July, even on my LinkedIn, and people were like, yo, what's this stupid thing, whatever. That was when a lot of people hadn't even heard the term NFT. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go all in on it. And started having, some of my boys that I played with reach out to me, some guys that were still at Charlotte, talked to a bunch of coaches I used to play for about this. And they were like, what's this stupid stuff? And I explained it and they're like, wow, that makes sense. But it's still, there's such a learning curve that it's been slower to adopt there because, okay, it makes sense, but how can I use this to benefit me? So it's really been, since I even entered this space this time last year, the goal has been the guys that want to know and that are my friends or people that approach me in sports, I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to show you what you can do with this if you so choose. Someone that just wants to make money off it, I'll probably tell you that's probably not the thing to do. But if you want fan engagement, you want to build a community, that type of thing, it might be for you, right? There are different ways to monetize it. But completely blanked here.
No, you're doing great. And especially now with NIL, right? And, the community aspect, I think, is huge for college athletes, right? We're seeing CJ Stroud. I actually read an article. I took the time out of my day to read an article about how he had a Bentley, realized he didn't want a Bentley, so he traded it in for a G-Wagon. It's like, hey, dude, you're incredible. You should be probably the top pick in the draft coming up, but, what a waste of my time, right? But shout out do you, because you are bringing that university so much friggin' money, you deserve to drive whatever you want, right? And now I think that the opportunity for these athletes, and maybe CJ Stroud is probably a good example, but not the best example because he's so friggin' well known. So he has however many millions of followers. It's those second-tier athletes, man. It's that backup quarterback, right? I don't know who the backup quarterback in Ohio State is, but that dude could take advantage of the Ohio State brand and what he is able to do and build a community essentially behind the scenes, we'll say, quote unquote, not being on the field constantly and being able to raise that fan engagement so that one day he does get in. Then he can maybe get that game ball, and what do you know? Someone from his community is going to get that game ball because they were into it, right? So it's all of those opportunities that come with NIL that allow these college athletes who are well deserving of making dollars. Now there's just this completely other avenue that's not just posting on social media. It's this community that you can build that can stay with you. Hey, if you make it to the NFL, congratulations. If not, they can at least stay with you and be with you for a significant period of time.
Yeah, and that's something that, you can tie that even when sports ends into, okay, if you own my NFT, I'd love to talk and network with you.
Yep.
I'd love to have mentorship sessions. That type of stuff.
Who owns a business? How can I help you? What can I do to help you? And, can I intern? Yeah, all that stuff. I think that's...
Yeah, but back to the NIL side, when I was playing, it was... I wouldn't have made jack shit, let's be honest. I was a lower level recruit when I came in. I wasn't highest in the class, that type of stuff. My last season I was competing for the starting job, but, look at a Mark Walton, or these are all guys that didn't necessarily become, a Saquon Barkley, but Mark Walton or a Braxton Berrios even, who had a great last season at Miami and is now, crushing it with the Jets. But those people, they could have very much benefited from it because, they're selling all our jerseys that don't have our names on them, but you see the number 8 jersey for Braxton, everywhere in the stands. And he was a fan favorite, really nice guy. Anyone that came out to, meet with him, he was always cordial, never just a really good dude. And that's the type of dude that or a DJ Dallas is another example that you want to launch NFTs with, that care to talk to their fans. But it's cool now that they can do that with NIL, because if this NFT technology, it's a weird time that it's, emerging right now with an NIL really, because had it happened 5 years ago, you really couldn't monetize, college sports. But I think it's a net positive. I think we opened up a Pandora's box where, there's going to be a lot of crummy deals put into place. But, from my perspective, the NCAA could have prevented that by instead just saying, no, you can, benefit from your likeness, but here are guidelines. Now there's no guidelines, and it's the Wild West because the NCAA fought it for so long and wanted all the money, money, money. Then it finally switches, and then now the players are getting thrown, insane deals their way. But I think, like I said, I think it's a net positive, because it also has to teach the kids how to deal with their finances.
Yeah, I mean, at 18, if someone gave me $1 million, like, I probably I would have put some of it away, but I also would have spent a huge chunk of it because you're 18 with $1 million. Like, your university in Miami with $1 million, Evan, you're not going to have a great time.
And then you also don't understand how much of that's going to be taken from taxes.
Yes.
You don't understand how much. You don't understand when you're in college, because we were getting stipends as well for like living wages. You don't really understand the cost of the real world once you go out and work, and all of that. If you haven't had a job, you don't understand the taxes are going to be taken out. And if you close a large deal like that, you got to be prepared.
Right? $1 million turns to $500,000 real quick. Now, I would take a $500,000, but at the same time, that's half of it. Half of it has gone to the government. So just always keep that one in mind. Evan, this has been awesome, man. We've kind of like talked around everything you do, I think. Like, we've pretty much talked about everything you do without explicitly saying. So, like, let's just mention one more time, Managing Director of PPL Strategies. What exactly do you do? Like, who are you? How do you consult? Who do you consult for? Like, how does it work? And how do you make money?
So luckily I got in the space in a time, where I could learn a lot, and now I do a few different things. I started with a few other founders, NFT CLT up in Charlotte, which was just educating, onboarding for free, just bi-weekly events, anyone interested in crypto to learn about it a little bit, and starting NFT. I'm down in Tampa now. So starting NFT Tampa here soon, to do pretty much the same thing. But, the projects I'm involved with, one is called Metatope, which essentially, is a 3D motionless tracker on your body. It tracks your face, it tracks your arm movements, it tracks your whole body movements. Think a Snapchat filter, but for your entire body. But you can now use your NFTs to do that. So people would say, why would you do that? Well, a lot of people are creating IP, intellectual property, think a Mickey Mouse of the metaverse out of that. So if you have, if you can create these personas, you can be the first baseball player in the metaverse, you can be the first rapper in the metaverse, that type of stuff. But just a very interesting company. DPC, NFT, of course, I work with Daniel on an advising position there, and looking to get more integrated, because I really love their product, and want to be more involved in hopefully the day-to-day or week-to-week. I guess my company, PPL Strategy, I guess I'll go over, is just a Web3 consulting firm. A lot of what we do is just educating, and we'll probably talk to 20 people and then do deals with 2 to 3 of them, because they're not ready to run. But the ones that are ready to run, like a Metatope who's been building by themselves, like a DPC, and then in addition to that, working a little bit on some real estate projects, which I'm very excited about.
Real estate in the metaverse?
No, I'm not like I'm not a metaverse property owner myself, to be completely honest. But tying in, real life experiences with actual properties and that type of stuff.
That's cool. So like a concert, like we were talking about.
It's more, exactly. But, tied to specific properties. Think a country club mixed with a Soho house.
Love it. That would be a nice place to go. Probably get a nice dinner. Yeah, that sounds delightful. Yeah, I like that. That's cool, man. And I think it's really interesting, like how you're able to, as you said, you've used your network, right? You went out, you went all in before everyone else, it seems, and people started to reach out to you. And then I'm sure some of those people, they had a conversation with someone else. They're like, wait, I want to learn about that. I was like, hey, talk to my friend Evan. He knows what he's doing. So that's
exactly how it's been. And I say this all the time. This time last year, 99% of people, my roommate, my parents a bit, thought I was crazy for sure, and I was like, no, I just have a feeling, and everything I thought that would happen in 2 to 3 years happened in about 6 months. So I'm very glad that I got in the time I got in. And that, a little bit of luck, a little bit of
No, a lot of hard work.
following your passion,
A lot of hard work. I guess so. What were your expectations for 10 years? Because I guess we can assume that'll happen in about 2.
I'm scared.
Good, good. You got to be a little
No,
scared.
I've seen. No, there's just so many things happening. Whether it be, hey, you can go to a training session in the metaverse, you can go to your therapy session in the metaverse, you can see doctors in that, right? I think there's going to be. I don't know if there's going to be a massive split, but like, it will depend on personal preference. A lot of people I've seen are already spending full days in the metaverse, which to me sounds terrifying to a lot of people. They like that safe haven. They like going in there. They choose to live like that. Fantastic. But me personally, my goal is to tie these NFTs, these communities into real life experiences, into meeting your favorite athlete, into meeting a rapper you like, into an experience at, a concert venue, where you're building memories and not just, popping on your goggles or hopping on your computer all day. But yeah, 10 years from now, I think it'll look, maybe not like The Matrix, but,
Ready Player One. Let's do
there
Ready
will be
Player
that.
One.
Ready Player
That's
One.
way more
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, I don't want
That
the
is
Matrix.
way more
Yeah.
fun than The Matrix.
Good
No,
stuff,
but
man.
that tech, that
Yeah.
tech is very much, whether in the proven stages or is already actually out. Like there's some crazy technology that I don't know, how mainstream it'll go, whatever. How crazy the world has been the last 2 years. I'm ready for anything.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm in the space. I would rather prepare myself and know everything that's coming or possibly coming so I can prepare for it.
I love it, man. That's some good stuff. Where can we go to learn a little bit more about what you're doing? And hey, maybe a couple people out there listen and they say, hey, I want to talk to Evan and see what he's up to and learn a little bit more.
Yeah. You can hit me on Twitter or Instagram. My Twitter is at eShirreffs, SHIRREFFS. And then on Instagram, I'm non-fungible Evan. So that's kind of my, I don't really intro myself as that, but it's somewhat of my online
It's
alias.
very cute. I like it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And then LinkedIn, just, first name, last name. And then if you want to check out the website, peoplestrategy.org, PPLstrategy.org. I can't think of many other places to learn
Those are usually pretty
about
good places.
me or what I do, but yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, feel free.
Yeah.
I'm always open to a conversation.
I was going to say DMs, I'm sure, are open. Contact form on the website. So, yeah, just make sure. I'll put everything in the show notes for everyone so that they can check it out, click on some links that they like. But, Evan, this is awesome, man. I really appreciate just the kind of the general conversation. I think we were planning on going in one direction, and then we kind of just talked about a bunch of stuff, and we kind of tied it back to sports in a couple different ways. So I appreciate that, and, learn a little bit more about your career. I think that's pretty cool too, man. So, yeah, this has been great. Appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed it.
Pleasure is all mine. Time's the only thing we don't get more of. So thank you, Evan, for giving me some of yours. Thank everybody out there for giving me some of theirs that are listening. But other than that, hope everyone has just the best day ever. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Awesome.